Currently, we're studying the part on training in giving up negative emotions. When habituated to negative emotions, the antidote can hardly reverse them. Therefore, as soon as attachment and so forth arise, it is the practice of bodhisattvas to, in the moment of mindfulness, take up the weapon-like antidote and destroy the negative emotions. When the various negative emotions of attachment and so forth arise, if one lets them manifest without relying on an antidote, one becomes gradually habituated and accustomed to them. Then it will be very difficult to reverse and abandon them in the future. That is to say, if you were to generate for example, negative emotions such as aggression every day, then eventually you will get very habituated with that because you familiarize with that negative emotion every single day. In this way, you would not be able to work with it. You would not be able to notice it. Then you definitely won't be able to apply antidote to it as well. So that applies to the other two poisons. The ones with wisdom, a person who is mindful of what to accept and reject is conscientious with respect to whatever happens with his three doors, will apply antidote as an extremely sharp weapon. With this antidote, he crushes and leaves behind the negative emotions such as attachment whenever they are about to arise or as soon as they have arisen. With mindfulness, then one can apply the antidote just as an extremely sharp weapon. This is the practice whereby all bodhisattvas rely on the antidote against the negative emotions. The great masters of the past, they would be able to notice the negative emotions right at the time when the negative emotions sprout. And then they would be able to right away use the antidote. This is similar to getting a cold. At times of just about getting a cold, that is the best time to take the cold medicine to cure or to heal from potential illness. But once you started to have runny nose and coughing and all of that, then it's very hard to reverse it. According to the ornament of the sutras, it says negative emotions destroy oneself, they destroy sentient beings, and they destroy discipline. More from the way of the bodhisattva, all enemies such as craving, anger, and so forth have neither arms nor legs, and are neither brave nor bright. How then could I become incarcerated by them? All negative emotions produced in this life as well as in the future lives are unwholesomeness, suffering, and mental unhappiness, causing harm to oneself and others. These faults are extremely great. Therefore, one needs to endeavor to abandon these negative emotions, which are so full of shortcomings. From the way of the Bodhisattva, it states, "My sole passion shall be now filled with bitterness to meet negative emotions in battle." Some may say that, well, does that mean that you have to generate negative emotions to eradicate aggression? In fact, this is not negative emotion, because over here, this filled with bitterness refers to a sense of resolve to eradicate negative emotions. And then to continue, it says that negative emotions abandoned with the eye of knowledge. Where will you go now when dispelled from my mind? As for the manner of abandoning them, one places mindfulness as the watchman who identifies them when they push their heads out. Perceiving them as enemy, one must then stab them with a spear of antidote. In this part, all of the antidotes are used or lots of the examples given here represents the antidotes as weapons to continue. Otherwise, if we just accept them when they first appear, their strength will increase so that it will be difficult to give them up later. That is why we need to stop the negative emotions when they're still small, when they're still sprouting. Otherwise, it will get difficult to give them up later. The struggle with the enemy, the negative emotions, is very precisely taught in the way of the Bodhisattva's chapter entitled Diligence. For instance, just as an old warrior approaches, or a very experienced warrior approaches the swords of an enemy on the battlefield, so shall I avoid the weapons of disturbing emotions and skillfully overcome these enemies. The experienced warriors knows how to dodge the weapons from the enemies. For the same reason, some of the very experienced practitioners know how to work with negative emotions, know how to get away from negative emotions at times when it's needed, and know how to run away from those negative emotions when it is needed. It is similar to say that nowadays some of the presidents in various countries planned their escape route. They have Plan A and Plan B, and they have all of those routes planned. Similarly, the senior warriors are quite experienced in working with afflictions. They know how to apply antidotes. For people with good experience in practice, then I think it would be easier for them to work with afflictions. But for very new practitioners or those beginners, it would be quite difficult. They would fail again and again. If someone drops the sword during battle, he will, out of fear, swiftly take it up again. Likewise, if we lose the weapon of mindfulness, we shall, terrified by the hells, we shall be terrified to be reborn in hell realm. But right away, we would then retrieve the right mindfulness quickly. If someone loses his sword while fighting with the enemy, he will immediately pick it up. In the same way, if we lose the weapon of mindfulness, of relying on the antidote, then out of fear of falling into the lower realm, so we must immediately rely on the mindfulness again. Just as poison would flow over the whole body with the current of blood. Likewise, when negative emotions find an opportunity, faults will flood my mind. Over here, the author just quoted from the first half of the stanza, but I filled it up with the full stanza so it would be easier for you to understand. If we are wounded by a poisonous arrow, then we immediately need to cut open the wound and draw out the poison. In the same way, we need to put an end to negative emotion as soon as they arise. Be like a frightened man who is carrying a jar full of mustard oil while being threatened by a swordman who will kill him if he spill a single drop. This is how those who practice should discipline themselves. Also, just as I would quickly leap up if a snake came into my lap, likewise, if sleep and idleness overcome me, I will swiftly chase them away. Nowadays, people have all kinds of drinks, coffee and Red Bull and really strong tea, and then so that you won't fall asleep when listening to oral transmission. At times of listening to oral transmission, those kinds of modern drinks are used to prevent drowsiness. At times of listening to our transmission, I heard lots of interesting stories. I think those stories could be quite interesting if we compile them into a book. How should we title this book? I think maybe we can title this book as a reminder. To continue, these quotes all demonstrate that we must reverse the negative emotions as soon as they arise. Maybe we should stop here? Maybe a little more. From Lord Atisha, when negative emotions appear, we need to remember the antidote. What need would there be of a dharma that lets negative emotions run wild, as well as one who destroys negative emotions with an antidote as soon as they arise? Such supreme being is a true hero. And we must crush all concepts as soon as they arise and let our antidotes strike fatally. And then Juntumpa also said, it is the Dharma. If it becomes an antidote for negative emotions, if it does not become an antidote, it is not the Dharma. This is such a pith instruction that you need to record it and memorize it. You need to remember that if Dharma can become antidote for negative emotions, that is Dharma. If it does not become an antidote for negative emotions, it is not Dharma. Nowadays, people will say that, oh, this Dharma teaching is so wonderful, so profound. I really want to receive it. This teacher is so wonderful, and I really need to meet him. But before you make all of those decisions, you need to see whether you can apply those kinds of Dharma teachings onto your negative emotion. If you can, then that is Dharma. If you can't, then that is not Dharma. Simply by saying that, oh, this Dharma teaching is really wonderful, or that teacher is really wonderful, by speaking of those is not as meaniful as you actually apply those Dharma onto negative emotion to determine whether one's practice is successful or not. It is how much you can work with your negative emotion or not. And you should make observation whether you have more negative emotion or not. You need to remember that.
Sonam dei tanche zubanya tona ni be jana ba jirga na jiran long chuba ye chuban son zhuwa zhuwa zhong